welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 153. And the title of this episode is "This War Will Not Be Like the Others. It Will Be Catastrophic." And we all know that war is not good. And before I get started, I just wanted to say welcome to all those new people that have started to listen to me. If you are listening on YouTube, you can come over to the x22report.com site. I do post the audio of the report first there, and then a couple hours later I post it on YouTube because it takes me a little while to compile it, and then I have to upload it to YouTube, and that takes a little while. So if you want to, just come to the home page, scroll down a little bit, hit the little play button, and you can listen to the audio of the report. There'll be no pictures or anything like that. Also, there are other things on the site. If you go to the tab that says Economic Collapse, that is a dynamic timeline of everything that's been going on, and I continually update that. And if you go to Sentinel Alerts, that is every day I post what is going on. That green box with the x22report.com logo is my comments of what I think is going on, and I try to comment on all the articles. But let's get into the economic collapse news. There is a lot going on, and we all know that the central bankers, globalists, elite, whatever you want to call them, they are trying to get this war going over in Syria. But let's talk about economic and news first. We're seeing unemployment still going higher. I mean, it's not coming down, it's going up. And across the Eurozone, we're seeing that unemployment is still at 12.1%, and it's been like that for 4 months. But in Spain, they had an increase in youth unemployment, and that has reached 56.1%. And you have to remember, the young people who are coming up, they're the ones who are supposed to be the new generation, the new people coming up and giving into the system, the new people coming up who are going to buy homes and goods because they're starting to make money. But when you have more than half not working and not making money and not contributing, it is very difficult to sustain the entire debt of the country. It is very difficult to make any progress with the economy getting any better. And we see this. There are a lot of examples out there. We see Greece. Got to think back when they first received the first bailout. They told us they'd only need the one bailout. No, now they're looking for the third one. And their unemployment, is even higher than Spain's youth unemployment. They are at 62.9%. And this is just, continually happening all around the world. There are some places that have lower unemployment and some places that have higher unemployment. But the thing is, it continually creeps up, or it's staying steady and really not going down. And here in America, they've changed a lot of the calculations for many different things like unemployment, GDP, inflation, and this way the American people, will not notice that the economy is getting worse. All they want you to do is look at the stock market, and that's all they want you to look at. And if you do look at the economy, it's the manipulated numbers, so you can't even tell that something is happening. And I discuss a lot about the housing market, and we're realizing that mortgage applications have been plunging, and we realize that new sales for new construction has been declining. We realize that sales, which always lag behind, are starting to decline. And I did get an email today from a realtor, and then I decided, you know what, let me call some other realtors and see how they're doing. And when you really speak to them, they always tell you in the beginning that everything is great. But when you get past the surface and you actually ask them more questions, you find out the real information. Well, what has happened, and even the person that emailed me, the beginning of the year, in the summer, like June and July, real estate was pretty good. But now, in the different areas that I called and the person that emailed me, it seems like real estate has come to a screeching halt. And I remember this in the 2007, 2008, because at the time I was trying to sell my house at that time, and there were a person across the street trying to sell their home, and we couldn't understand why nobody was coming to the houses. Because just a couple months ago, there were a boatload of people coming, and the house sold within like a week. And all of a sudden, it came to a screeching halt. And we are seeing the same pattern again. Now, it doesn't hit every area at once. And I'll give you an example of this. I was in New York. It hit there first. My sister-in-law lives in Florida. She's a realtor. And when I was in New York, I said, wow, real estate is just like, there's like nothing going on, and realtors can't explain it. How is it in Florida? Oh no, things are fantastic down here. Things are rocking and rolling, and it's fantastic. Well, there was a lag. About 4 to 6 months, it finally hit Florida, and everything came to a screeching halt. So, yes, we will see things in different areas starting to slow first. I know President Obama was out there making his rounds and telling everyone that real estate is rebounding, and of course he was using data from June and July, but now we know we're coming out of the summer. We know mortgage applications were way down, mortgage rates are going up, people are coming out of the market, and we realize this. So we're looking at unemployment. We realize that retail sales, which I discussed quite a bit, are also declining, and a lot of the big stores and small stores are seeing this. And those stores like Walmart, Nordstrom's, Best Buy, for those people who have never heard me say this before, and JCPenney's, we know that's a mess. But now, with automobiles, what they're starting to do is they are starting to give loans to subprime borrowers to purchase automobiles. Now, let me ask you this. If the economy is doing so well, and the unemployment's coming down in the U.S., why in the world would they need to start giving loans to subprime borrowers? Because, what is a subprime borrower? Well, a subprime borrower has an extensive history of late or missed payments, default debt, excessive debt, or no property assets that could be used as security. So it looks like they're taking the next step, just like they did in 2007, 2008. They were giving subprime borrowers loans for houses, for cars, and it looks like we're repeating the same pattern. And we're starting to see that automobile manufacturers, especially German car sales, have retreated in August, and they have dropped around 7%. And we're also noticing that France, Italy, and Spain reported sharp declines in auto registrations this Monday. So we can see that the auto industry around the world and here in the U.S. is starting to decline. But there is something that automakers do to cover up on the number of registrations. What they can do is automakers can boost their monthly results by registering new cars to themselves. And but overall, we can see that the economy is not what the Fed and the U.S. government, the Eurozone, is telling us. They are building this up. They are using this to make everyone believe that everything is going perfectly. The economy is recovering, things are looking good, and they're looking so good that they need to start the war in Syria. And the only reason they're doing this at this point, they're building this up so much, is because they know this fall or early winter, and again, the time frame might be a little off, maybe it'll go a little bit into winter, but or late fall, early. I mean, it doesn't matter about the timing. It's going to be around that period. Things are going to collapse. I call it collapse part one, and I'll just go very quickly over this. What I believe is going to happen is that the war will with Syria will start to happen. If they can't get it done, there will be a false flag. I believe that there will also be some type of cyber attack on the financial system at this time, or or some other attack. But I really believe it would be some type of cyber attack, and they will blame this again probably on Syria at this point. It will hit the stock market. It will hit the banks and all that stuff to bring everything to a screeching halt. And this way they can blame this on another country because the U.S. government and the central bankers do not want to be blamed for a collapse. And this will allow then the the Fed and the U.S. government to increase QE, because I know they're talking about taper, but they're going to say they were just about to taper, but look what happened. We were on the precipice of recovering. We were just about to taper, and now this happened. We're going to blame this on Syria, and if the war hasn't started at this point, this will enable the war to start. And the government and the Fed, will say we're going to pump this back up and we're going to try to help, because what's happening is all the foreign nations starting to realize what is really going on here. That the dollar is collapsing, the United States is collapsing, the Eurozone is collapsing, things are falling apart, and foreign nations are starting to sell their treasury bonds. Well, if they sell them, someone's going to buy them. And guess who's going to buy them? The Fed. The Fed has been buying them all along. And to keep up with this pace, they will have to increase QE. And not just for purchasing treasury bonds, but the amount of foreclosures for housing is going to start to skyrocket. Why? Because the reality will then unveil itself that the economy wasn't doing as well as they said. But of course, they're going to blame this on another country. But all of a sudden, you will see companies laying off. We already had a report that I did a couple weeks ago about Meredith Whitney, I believe her name was, saying that Wall Street this fall and winter is laying off about 100,000 people, which is 15% of the labor force on Wall Street. And you're going to see a lot of people out of work. And you know what happens when a lot of companies start to lay off, other companies start to join in, the stock market starts to decline, and it's like a snowball effect that cannot be stopped. And the Fed and the U.S. government are going to try to print to manage the situation. And we see like banks are starting to sell off some of their branches. I did this with Bank of America, who was selling their branches. We see J.P. Morgan selling off their real estate. We also see, if I just go back to real estate for a sec, we also see mortgage companies laying off people now. That's not a good sign. A recovering economy in housing, you don't lay off people in mortgage companies, and there's actually mortgage companies closing. J.P. Morgan has been laying off in their mortgage division around 800 people. East-West Mortgages pretty much closed their department, and that was like 1,000 or 1,500 people, whatever it was. But this doesn't happen in a good economy. But we're seeing banks now trying to get rid of branches and to increase their cash on hand level. And Bank of America is pulling out of China right now, and they're trying to pull out like $1.5 billion out of China, and they're trying to prop up their cash flow in the bank, and we're starting to see this happen all over the place. Now, I just want to talk about the NDAA. Right now, it's going back into the Supreme Court, and it looks like they're taking on Obama with this because, again, the NDAA will allow the government to arrest anyone they deem as a terrorist. Domestic terrorist, foreign terrorist, doesn't matter. If they call you a terrorist, they can pick you up, arrest you without a trial. They don't have to give a reason, and you will sit in prison. This is what the NDAA does. And this this person, Hedges, uh, goes on to say here that if we fail, if this law stands, if in the years ahead the military starts to randomly seize and make people disappear, if dissidents and activists become subject to indefinite and secret detention in military gulags, we will at least be able to look back on this moment and know we fought back. Because right now they are leading up a lawsuit trying to get the Supreme Court to rule this as unconstitutional. And every time they make a little bit of headway, Obama comes back. And now I don't know if it has to do with NSA blackmailing, but all of a sudden it's always overturned. And the NDAA stands. So we will have to watch this and see how this turns out. But at this point right now, the NDAA is in effect. Now, this was posted on The People. It's from the United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs. Cujo, who is on The People every single day, received this. And I'm just going to read a portion of this, of what they're planning to do with weapons that civilians have. And it's listed 1 through 7. And I will read the one that I believe is very important, but you can read them all on this. And all of this from the UN, and this is the UN Arms Treaty that is pending in the Senate right now, and the gun bill, which is pending in the Senate, waiting for some type of an event to happen so President Obama can say, oh, look, we just have that standing by. Let's prove this. And they're just sitting there waiting. And he's already created the executive orders to support the UN Arms Treaty. He has already created the executive orders, 23 of them, to support the gun bill. And this one goes on to say, which is I'll read point number 6 here. Codification of laws to completely makes any and all firearms illegal to own, possess, or use outside of military and law enforcement usage. This is number 7, creation of United Nations Police Task Force with the specific mission of assisting member nations with the collection of weaponry from civilian hands. And we can see that the end game to this is to get these laws passed, to get the weapons out of the Americans' hands, because this is their worst fear when everything comes collapsing down and DHS, FEMA, TSA, IRS, Social Security, which all have weapons, are dispersed among the country to go after those people that are on lists, to get those people who they believe are going to be some type of a problem, and they are going to keep everyone under control and martial law so there's not an uprising and the people don't try to get the government to replace the government officials. That's their biggest fear. The government officials want to stay in power. They believe that they deserve it. They believe that the American people shouldn't be able to have any rights like freedom of speech, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment. And they've been trying all throughout this time to chip away at all of these rights. And eventually they're going to have some type of false flag event to really push the UN Arms Treaty and the gun bill, get those passed, and get the weapons away from the American people, because this is their last task that they're trying to do. Because they already have the NDAA, they already have the Patriot Act, they're already spying on everyone, and they can just pick you up. Oh, you're a terrorist, domestic terrorist, pick them up. And they already have the law, which is unconstitutional, which means it's null and void. But the only way for the American people to fight back against this, and it's going to be very hard with a pitchfork and a knife, the only way to do it, and I'm not saying to people to go and do this now, I'm saying it's for the people. If the government comes after the people, you need a way to defend yourself. And this is why our founding fathers put this into place. Okay, now let's move on here. Now, we see Obama, we see Kerry, we see Hagel all out there saying that, we have to go in there. This is terrible, that they're killing all of these people and they've used chemical weapons. But there are many instances where the United States just looked the other way. For instance, why didn't we go into Nigeria when they were having a civil war? This was in 1967. 2 million people died. We didn't go there. Why not? Let's go a little bit further. Let's go towards the present here. What about Sri Lanka civil war? 100,000 people. Syria right now is 110. Why didn't we go there? That was 1983. Why didn't we go to the Congo War in 1998? 5.4 million. We didn't go there for humanitarian reasons. We had no interest. Oh, that's right. They don't sell oil. That's the problem. If you noticed, all these nations we don't care about. We only care about those nations that are selling oil, not using the US dollar as reserve currency. If you are using the US dollar as reserve currency, we have no interest going in there. You can do whatever you want. Not we, but the US government, central bankers, elite, globalists, whatever, any word that you want to put to them. So we're seeing this, even in Darfur, 2003, 400,000 people. Nope. U.S. looked the other way on that one too. So why Syria? Syria, because they are selling oil not using the U.S. dollar. Plus, they have a treaty with Iran, which is the grand prize. They are also selling oil without using the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency. And also, these two countries, they don't have a private Western central bank. Okay? We went into Iraq because he was selling the oil not in the U.S. dollar. We went into Libya, Lebanon for the same exact reasons. So this is why we're going into Syria. Now, we know this war is inevitable. It's going to happen. So other countries are taking precautions. Iran is now installing advanced weapons and radars onto their warships because they are preparing for what is coming, and they know what is coming. And we also see that Russia has, I think I reported this on yesterday, is sending in a ship to monitor the entire situation. And we also understand now that Russia is sending ships, 2 marine carrying ships, to the Mediterranean. And they're going to rotate these ships into the Mediterranean. And they're also looking to dispatch, in the direction of Syria, a missile cruiser, Moskva, the flagship of the Black Sea Fleet. So we can see this war and the tensions are intensifying. And here we have the U.S. government officials, Bonner, Pelosi, all on board now and saying, yes, let's go to war. We also see McCain. He was screaming on the top of his lungs, had a meeting with Obama. Obama told him what the plan was, and now he's okay. Because the main plan that they're going to do is, first they're going to try a limited strike. I said this a while back in one of my reports, because they're targeting Assad's forces. They want to remove quite a bit of his forces. Why? Because they have the paid mercenaries inside of Syria. They call them the rebels. I call them the paid mercenaries because they're paid by the U.S. government or funneled through Saudi Arabia and then they pay them. They are losing the battle. They need some type of an advantage. So what are they doing? They want to hit Assad's forces to give them this advantage. And to help out with the advantage, the U.S. government has trained more paid mercenaries in Jordan. They left August 17th and 19th and now are either inside Syria or on the border of Syria waiting to get in there and to help out. And President Obama knows this is what they're doing because this is their whole plan, and he knows that they have to do this limited strike because they have no alternative, because if they do not go in there, the dollar just starts to collapse right now, and they won't be able to hold it off any longer. Here, they think they can hold it off a little bit longer if they get into Syria, and then they get into Iran. Then they want to control all the natural resources within the Middle East, which they have been doing. It's a lockdown of the Middle East. And they also realize that this war will cover up this collapse that is coming. So this is a complete plan of covering it up, controlling the natural resources, and putting off the collapse a little bit longer. And as I said in my other report, they continually give the American people and Congress piecemeal evidence. Why? They do it in the corporate media every day because they're using incremental brainwashing to convince everyone that they have evidence that they can't show you, that they have evidence that's confidential, that they spoke to people that we can't tell you who they are, and there was a report out there saying they have a Syrian defector, but we can't tell you who this person is. They didn't show up to the news conference, and it's very hush-hush confidential, and the American people don't need to know anything about this or the world. But we have all this information. Now, it doesn't matter if Congress votes yes or no to this, but for the sake of the people do not want war. 91% of the people are saying no. There are 4 petitions on the White House website right now, and the first petition has 14,600 signatures. The second one has 5,000. The other one has 1,800, and the last one has 325, which was just started August 30th. So in total, there's about 30,000 signatures already in 7 days. So we can see the American people right now are saying absolutely no. It's 91% saying no, and they've started to put petitions on the White House site. And these congressmen are supposed to be for the people, because that's who they represent. They don't represent the government. And they have to listen, or they should listen to the people, because we're the ones voting them into office. But at this point, it really doesn't matter if they vote yes or no, because if they vote no, there will be some type of false flag, and we will go into war no matter what. And I talked about that before, either on the financial system, a chemical attack in the U.S., or an attack on the fleet that is right outside of Syria. This morning we had 2 ballistic missiles that were launched in the Mediterranean. Israel just so happened to be doing a test, they say, with the U.S. Now, tensions are very high in this area. We have Russian ships, American ships, Syria's on high alert, Iran is on high alert, China, Israel's on high alert. Why would you do a missile test at this point. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. The only sense it makes is they were hoping to provoke someone, and someone with an itchy trigger finger to shoot a missile. This is what they were doing. They were hoping by doing this, someone would say, "Oh my God, we're being attacked, fire," and it didn't work. And the Russian detected the launch in the Mediterranean, and they were alerted. And right now, nothing happened, and it's like being played down at this point. Now, the proposal that President Obama is making to the Senate and to the House of Representatives, which is the authorization of the use of military force, and he's saying there's no boots on the ground. But let me just read this part of it. The President is authorized to use the armed forces of the United States as he determines to be necessary and appropriate. Would include authorization for ground troops should the President decide they were necessary and appropriate. Now, he has this little part that's in the authorization for the use of military force. And this is what they're having problems with, is saying it's way too broad. You're telling us you're not going to use ground troops, but you're in this document, you're telling us if you decide we need it, we're going to. Well, that's why 2,200 Marines are standing by, and they can be inside Syria within hours. That's why the CENTCOM underground base is right outside of Syria with 270 officers that will which that base will be used to coordinate everything that has to do with Syria. That's why there's 800 Marines on a warship sitting outside of Syria. So when they say no ground, no boots on the ground, it's kind of hard to believe. The corporate media is continually pushing out evidence, evidence, evidence. They're using the incremental brainwashing on everyone that watches the corporate media, and they're trying to get the people to switch, and they're trying to convince Congress, and they keep, they continually to do this over time. But as we know, it doesn't matter because they understand that this war has to go forward. They understand the collapse is coming. They understand that if they do not do this, there's a collapse, and it will be blamed on central bankers. It will be blamed on the U.S. government, and they will not be blamed, and this is why they do this. And they're hoping to control all natural resources, because what they believe is when the war is ended and they start the system over again, they believe that they are going to head up the new system, and they're going to back everything on all these natural resources again, and we're going to go through this entire system once again. I mean, other countries have other plans. Russia and China have another plan. They've been accumulating gold, and they're making deals with many other nations around the world to bypass the U.S. dollar. There is the G20 meeting coming up September 5th and 6th, which they're discussing removing the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency and replacing it with maybe China's currency. And we know the central bankers are not going to go for that, but this is what is happening right now. We also have to remember next week that we have a couple things coming up. It is September 11th here, and we know that there's a Million Muslim March, which is going to be held in D.C., which is a potential false flag. Doesn't mean something's going to happen, no, but there is a potential for it. There is bikers are riding into D.C. to counter the Million Muslim March on September 11th. We also have an FBI warning of a private sector advisory of a cyber attack at this point. And we also have to remember later in November there is a power grid drill going on, which will simulate a cyber attack, an EMP, an attack on the power infrastructure. And all of this comes into play about what I've been talking about since I started this, about cyber attacks hitting the power grid, the power going out. As Janet Napolitano left DHS, her parting words were, "There's going to be a cyber attack." They already know this. They already know that they're going to do this. The only people that don't know this are the people that are sleeping and not aware of what's going on. You who are listening, and hopefully we can reach out and touch as many people as we can. And I know it's difficult because uh, someone once said to me, the mind is like a parachute. If it's not open, it doesn't work. So if these people are closed minded and don't want to listen, it will not work. And you can tell them until the cow comes home, they will never, ever believe what you're saying. It's very difficult to understand. And I don't know if anyone watched the movie Matrix. It's one of my favorite movies. But when Neo finds out, when he's on the ship and he finds out what has been happening, he says, "Oh, look, he's going to pop." And he did pop because he couldn't believe that he was in a dream world. And a lot of these people here who are not prepared will pop. They will not be able to handle the situation. And I do have an example of this. There was a friend, they moved out of the area right now, but the husband lost the job and he was getting severance. He was getting unemployment, but the wife could not handle what was happening, and she went into like hiding for 1 week and was very depressed and very upset and could not handle the entire situation of him not having a job. And we are going to see this multiplied by 100 when the power goes out and people cannot feed themselves. We're going to see this when people do not have water, when there's rioting in the streets, when there's no law enforcement around because they're protecting their families at night in the dark. All of you people that are listening right now need to get prepared. And you need to get prepared, with batteries, with medicine. If you have high blood pressure, if you have a heart condition, if you're diabetic, I would get extra medical supplies. Um, I would have toiletries. Of course, you need to have weapons. And you just need to be prepared for all these situations that are coming up because things are escalating. Things are moving much quicker now, and we can see that war is going to be started. The weapons confiscation is going to be moving forward, and the financial institutions are going to be hit by some type of cyber attack. And of course, gold and silver is also good. And I also would suggest if you do have cash in the bank, if you don't want to take out all of it, I would take out some of it. Because you have to remember those people in Cyprus woke up the next day and they couldn't get any of their money out. And I would hate to see that happen to anyone here or in England or anywhere in Europe, in Australia, anywhere that anyone listens to what I'm saying. I would want to wake up the next day and you have absolutely no money. You couldn't take it out, and you couldn't get it at this point. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.